we are in this together.
You have gifts that I don't have, and I have gifts that you don't have.
That we must see. Now is the time, because it's when we all get together that we will make the changes that we must make. We are the world.
Welcome to Malcolm and We, a streaming portal leading into the wonderful world of Zoomcasting, where we could do shows throughout the whole world. And right now, we have a guest from Botswana, and we'll let I'm going to let Yana do the introduction. Yana, go ahead.
Hello, and thank you, Angelina, for being here today, all the way from Botswana. Angelina leads our We Can Botswana team in Africa. She has been with We longer than I have, which is, for me, it's been about 5 years. And Angelina has started with nothing and built it to a wonderful program. She leads conferences. She has been to conferences. In fact, she's been to Sweden. So I hope she'll be able to talk about that. I can't remember the name of her organization, but I know that she will tell it. And just a marvelous activist in climate and all sorts of situations, conditions, issues for women, for people in Africa. So welcome, Angelina. Thank you for being here.
Welcome, Angelina. Tell us why you joined We and what We means to you.
Thank you, Jana, and thank you, Malcolm. My name is Angelina Gabaitse. I'm in Botswana. I am the leader for the We Can Botswana team. We are registered as We the World's Botswana chapter. And I joined We because I was looking for ways that our community work can connect with the world. And I thought we amplify social change, and they're working with so many other organizations, and they can help us amplify the work that we do, only to my realization that I am going to meet amazing people who are going to help me grow and also catapult and amplify the work that we do. The work, I've been with We for 8 years, in October, and it's through the interactions and the people that I've met that I've been able to develop a community and human development program dubbed Unleashing the African Potential, which is a body, mind, and soul transformation program that runs for 12 weeks. And at the end of the program, we expect our beneficiaries to set up a community garden so that they can be able to sustain their lives and have a way into how you can incorporate moving the consciousness of I to we. It's also in a way of uniting people, uniting communities, and ensuring that there's that indigenous knowledge that goes from one generation to another generation. Only the good indigenous knowledge that builds one's self-esteem, spirituality, and mental health.
What do you, let's say, do on a typical day? Yeah, how is there? You wake up and do what? What do you cover? Or do we have enough time? We have enough time for all your activities.
Well, she's a mother too, so
yeah. My typical day is very chaotic, but it involves, taking care of my son, taking him to school, making sure he's ready for his other activities. And I also run a business, so it involves other details of doing things like business management and going out to the community to meet with elders, as well as preparing for upcoming conferences. We have these climate education talks, and I do a lot of work in the background where I make sure that there's speakers. We identify speakers that are going to be there to teach people all about climate change, to teach people about mental health, to teach people about what it means to be in the changes that we see going on in the world and how they can cope and how they can manage while also trying to absorb all of those things for myself and finding a balance to have my own personal time. So it's quite chaotic, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I love ensuring and seeing to it that my community is tended to, or I find a way of growing so that I can take it back to my community to see them and their lives changing as well and being impacted.
And what is your individual background? What is your education background, or how did you get involved with this in the first place?
I did my high school, and when I was supposed to go to university, I was studying medicine, and it just wasn't the fit for me. Then I went into culinary skills, also as a way of learning the dynamics of different cultures. I also went into agriculture, and all of that has kind of helped me to understand different, not industries, but in the different spheres and different lives and backgrounds. Because sometimes I think from a privileged background, because I didn't walk long distances to school, certain things I've always had my basic needs being met from. But when you go out into all these different industries, different spheres, I've gotten to appreciate and see that there are people out there who are truly suffering, people who have endured painful situations to be where they are. And that has always pushed me to want to learn more about where I feel I have a weakness or I don't have an understanding. So right now I'm currently pursuing environmental change or environmental governance and ways how I'll say in anthropology so that I can understand human behaviors and how my position or how I can grow and develop so that I can get and communicate with world leaders so that they can get to see how people are suffering and put out the rightful policies and reforms that will, ensure people have at least their basic needs being met
Right,
and understood.
you chewed off a lot.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
n-
Lord.
Angelina, how did you go to that conference that you went to in Sweden?
I was recommended by a friend um from we, and how that happened is that he said he's been seeing all the work and the seeds that I've been planting and all the community work, and that opened a whole different kind of world for me because then I got to travel to Sweden, and recently I traveled to go to Egypt, and these have placed me in on an international platform. I mean, conference, conferences such as the UN, you get to speak on that international and large and known platform. It gives you some form of credibility, and being able to take out my community's needs and how things are happening in the world, which doesn't always reach everybody, has been one of the most, I think, fulfilling things for me. It doesn't always work out, and I think Jana knows that we've struggled when we've had so many rejections, into getting to where we are. But it's been like a pivotal um, change. And I hope to see more upcoming activists and leaders. And I will try my best as well to, what's the word, empower people. Like if I go up one step, then I'm pulling up one person as well.
Now, I know nothing, I know really very little about Botswana. Do you live in a large city or a small town, or how would you?
I live in the capital city. It's filled with quite buzz. But lately we've been, ever since COVID, we've been hardly hit by the lockdowns and the strict movement restrictions, informal sectors have been badly hit. So it's now not so, it's a beautiful place, but now there's social ills that are on the rise. There's a lot of mental health issues that are coming up, and crime and things like that, that we hope to address by finding a way to come up with different kinds of programs that will help enrich people's lives, to shift them from that consciousness of lack to seeing or finding ways of living through that.
Right, but do you have government support, or you or is the government support you in any way, or are they anti your program?
They are supportive, but I think there's a particular bureaucracy around that. So it's difficult, to be honest, but we always find our way of how to get around it. That's why most of my work is really involved with all these international major sponsors and major groups, because it's difficult sometimes to get to the government and say, hi, my name is Tato and Angelina, I'm doing this for the community, and that. Also because we've had similar cases where we don't have strong policies with things like money. So we've had some bad people come in and register nonprofit organizations for and cover them up for issues such as money laundering. So as a developing country, I think there's also still developing policies, and we wish and hope to be heard um, soon. And also we have now like a lot of corruption coming up. So the money is not going into the rightful places. And it's painful to see people struggling, people literally fighting for their lives. But even if there's money coming in, but it's not going into to the right places. Like now, one other thing that touched my heart is that we have the mine, one of the mines that recently opened or being refurbished to export coal to Poland. But Poland is one of the countries, like in Europe, they've signed a treaty to end fossil fuels. So those things bring into question on whether really our leaders have put their minds and the effort into making sure that we have a livable planet, or is it just for political gain? Like you ask yourself a lot of questions, because now we have things like renewable energy, and Botswana is a semi desert. We have plenty of sun. We can live off solar power energy and find ways on how we can incorporate renewable energy into other structures so that there's employment creation and socioeconomic, upliftment of 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 the nation.
How about the people in general? Do they have enough food supply? The big thing, as a we live in the U.S. and I really have no idea of your country, but do they have enough food to eat, enough water to drink? Because you always hear about in any part of Africa that that the water is such a shortage that people walk 10 to 20 miles one way to get water and come back. Is that similar to what your country goes through?
Yes, it's similar. If you're not in the city, but even in the city, we have villages like from the capital city about 10 kilometers from here. We can go days, 3 to 4 days without water supply.
Wow.
And you wonder about those in the rural and remote communities where they don't even have standpipes, and they have to go to fetch water at the rivers and dams, which are drying up because now we've been experiencing an extended extreme drought period because of
But you
climate
said you were
change.
having a lot of rain today, right?
Yeah, but funny enough, it's only in the city. It's not filling up the rivers and the,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
Yeah.
comes too much at a time. And,
Yes.
I hope you can hear me okay. I had a class several years ago when I went to college the first time. Um, and one of the classes I was taking was an ecology class, and the teacher wasn't very good. Anyway, the only thing I remember from that class, and I remember it was on the test, and I got it wrong, was the annual inches of rainfall in Botswana. And one of the few things I remember from that college experience was it was 9 inches of annual rainfall in Botswana. Um, with global warming, I imagine it's not even 9 inches now.
No, it's not. It's about 6 now.
Oh,
But,
well, that's significant.
but I'm thinking, how, it must be difficult getting people involved with, let's say, climate change when their main concern is feeding and eating themselves and taking care of their children. So it must be, I would say if I had this problems, climate change might be the last thing I could think of, even though ultimately it's the best. It's the thing that you really have to work on.
Yes. That's why we work on climate education talks. And we're hoping to reach as many people as possible, but we're going to start off in schools so that I feel children, have a greater impact in our lives as parents, because that they tend to know more and they figured out patterns on how they can communicate to us. So planting that seed with a child means they'll be able to take it home and communicate in a way that their parents will be able to understand and see the relevance and importance. It is true that with all these issues that are going on, climate change seems like a luxury. But what people don't understand is that that's the main cause why there's extreme drought. That's the main cause why we have limited funding, we have limited money coming in because of how now money is being invested into fossil fuels, and other industries are not the as what's the word I'm looking for? They're not generating as much money that's interesting to investors, and especially now with the Russia and Ukraine war. That's a great threat to food security. Now imagine what that means to us as it is. We haven't been able to feed our own country, to feed our own people, and we've been relying on imports. Now it means that there's less imports coming in, but there's no money to support people on doing that subsistence farming, and even that is not yielding any efforts because there's no rain, and they need technologies to farm properly. So it's just quite chaotic, and we hope that soon people will learn to understand, even if we can't employ, because these technologies are quite expensive. We'll try to get into indigenous knowledge, like harvesting water, so that at least we can be able to manage to do a few acres just to feed our family or our communities.
Yeah, I assume you have problems with well, I don't know if there's any, tropical diseases or since you don't have much water, whether your water is contaminated or do you, going back to water, are you, do you have any natural resources or agriculture in your parts of the world, or what are they?
Um, Resources as in like dams or rivers.
Rivers or natural minerals that they do that you could export to other countries or vegetation that you grow for you to eat or export, is there any, again, I'm fairly illiterate about Botswana, I'm sorry to say.
It's all right. We
But
do
you
have
become my leader.
yeah, we do have we're mining diamonds, and that is our biggest exporter. But with diamonds, the painful part of it is that when you look at the numbers, it makes it seem like Botswana is a very rich country, but those revenues aren't for us because the companies that are mining the diamonds aren't ours. They are based in Europe. So you can imagine that a majority of that money goes back to Europe, and there's not much left to develop the country or to even pay people a decent salary. A minimum wage here is $150, and you can imagine what somebody does with $150. That's
For what
how
period of
much
time?
you
Per
pay
What
month?
for
time?
per month.
150
Yeah,
per month. Okay.
per month, and um, accommodation is starts from $200. That's even before you pay for your water bill. You make sure that your kids have food. So you find people end up struggling, and you can imagine seeing so much millions. You say, for example, you're managing books of a multinational company, and you are seeing millions coming in, but you're being paid peanuts. So these
Right.
are the kind of things that end up driving people to lose their moral values, because when they get back home, they're looking at their kids, and their kids are hungry. Their kids need to get to school. Their kids need to be fed. They need to be clothed, but there's not much that's going on.
Are
And
there,
we do, there are regions where we have diseases such as malaria and diarrhea outbreaks, but not because of water, but because now there are a lot of animals that are dying, and there's all of those airborne diseases with dead carcasses contaminating the little water that they have.
no? Hmm. Are the are you getting like computers into the schools or the internet, so the kids can reach out and learn things from other sources and the parents or people around them?
We do have organizations that are pushing for ICT and IT literature, but and it's coming up well, but there's so much disparity, because then the kids then go back home and you find that they don't have these devices. So there's that gap, huge gap in between generation to generation.
Yeah, well, they have to have, as I say, and the youth shall lead us.
Yes.
Now, I also I know I forget where when you mentioned diamonds, and I forget what country it is, but what they're doing is the manufacturers of the diamonds are clearing out all the forests, and they're putting like a mercury into the earth. So they, for some reason, this helps them find the diamonds and loosens the earth, but it's poisonous to the region around them, and it's killing all the vegetation and streaming into the water, which is making the water very dangerous. Is this happening in Botswana with the diamonds?
I'm not quite aware of the diamond production. We don't have a lot of information about what really goes on, but I know, especially with the area that they're doing coal mining, you don't have a lot of vegetation there, because there's a lot of methane gases going
Right.
up, and the sand is terrible. Even the companies that are there, people will tell you that even when they're in the houses in the evening, they can sometimes see the smoke in the households, and they'll be coughing, but there's not much that they can do. They're not even provided with masks, or even just necessary precautions of how they can manage their lives after that. So you find it difficult that people put themselves in these dangerous situations just to feed their families. I've had a conversation with one of the executives in the mine, and he did say that they are well aware of what is going on, and that they're not supposed to be doing this. But if he said, if I leave my job, or if I protest this, I'm going to be chased out of my job, and how am I going to feed my kids? What am I going to tell my wife? So we just endure these things, and sleep with a painful heart, knowingly, but because there's nothing else that we can do right now.
Yeah. I know in different parts of Africa, again, you always hear about the poachers and what a dangerous group they are and how it's hard to stop them. Do you have problems with any natural wildlife in your part of the country?
Yes, we used to have, but a couple of years back, they set up a anti-poachers unit, which involved the military and a special um, mm, police group. So they do patrols around the reserves, the game reserves, and all those natural forests to ensure that there's limited number of people coming in illegally. And we've had a few cases in the past few years, but they've since been resolved, and there hasn't been any other report
No,
on
that's
that.
good. Now,
What would you like people to know about Botswana?
That Botswana is a beautiful country. Despite all the social ills, I think it's just a disease that has crept up on us, and we will heal from it. But Botswana is a beautiful place. The people are very loving and warm. Everywhere you go, the people that you pass by, they greet you. They're interested in your welfare if you're doing well, and that is just us. We live out. I don't know if you know the famous word Ubuntu. That I am who I am because of who you are, and that is how we live
Mm,
in our communities, and that is how we know that to a certain point that we find it shocking or it's traumatizing if I'm living next to you and it takes me not I don't even know your name, I don't know what you're doing. It's something that's completely off. And I've had some people ask me why I don't stay in these countries that I've traveled to. And I always tell them, even if your house is raining and, home will always be home, because I really have felt a lot of cultural shock when I was in Sweden, in Europe, um, because I'm so used to walking into a room and greeting people, but that is something that is totally different for the global north, and it was quite shocking. I think I got sick, so that's why I always come back home, because of the warmth and the love and the way that we embrace each other, even in our strangeness, and even in this hot soup that we're currently in.
but just a tip about going among people that you don't know. And again, I'm originally from New York City, and I live in Los Angeles. And I always you go to a room full of strangers, and you make them your friends. You got to, instead of saying, "Oh, I don't know anybody," and go back, you say, "Hi, my name is so and so. I'm here from. Who are you?" And you'll be
Yes.
surprised. Initially, people are shocked that you'll speak to them, but eventually they'll. I always ask questions. My wife gets totally embarrassed. I'll hear that you have an accent. They'll say, "Oh, where are you from?" And so you shouldn't
Yeah.
ask. I say, "Why not? I'm interested."
Yeah.
Guys in Botswana, oh, tell me about Botswana. I don't know that much. With Yana, I'm traveling around the world. But anyway, getting back to what do you have planned for the next few weeks or a few months?
Um,
Any big
there's
things?
a yes, there's a couple of conferences that we're working on in March. So we're still working out funding, visas, and all of that stuff. And we're also preparing more upcoming activists. We're teaching them on activism, just so that they don't have to go through the same mistakes that we went through, and also just to ensure that theirs is more or less a seamless um, walk-through experience, so that they can reach higher heights that we couldn't reach because of the hurdles that we had to go through and our limitations. So we just keep on developing. If we're on level one, we try and get the other group to level two and hope that they get the other group onto the next level, until we reach to a place where we see the world living in peace, the world living the environment being stable, and nature always, restores itself. Nature heals itself, until we see ourselves not harming nature in a way that she can be able to restore herself back to balance.
What I say to them, that is amen.
Yes.
Anyway, we're almost out of time. Is there any place they could reach you? Do you have any website that they could go into or find out what you're
And if you have a fund, too, and then we can promote that for you.
Yes. Yeah, we have the We Can Botswana webpage, and then we have our
Mm-hmm.
Facebook and Instagram at We the World Botswana chapter. Yeah, that's where you can find most of our work. And on my personal Instagram page at Angie06, Angelina Gabaitse.
and now that we're about to go out, I feel like I told you at the beginning of the show. There's an old Italian song, Angelina, don't lean on the bell. Anyway, with that, to put a smile on your face, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to going out to your part of the world. I've never been there.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we have a lot of friends
welcome.
in Africa now.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward for you to come to visit us one day. And
Yes,
have you ever been to the United States at all?
No, but I hope
Okay.
to in a few weeks. Yeah.
Okay, hope you make it, and if you do, be sure to look us up. Anyway, guys, again, thank you very much. Yana, have a great week. Well, I'll speak to you before. Angelina, again, it was a pleasure meeting you, and you're listening to Malcolm and We, heard on malcolmpresents.com, a streaming portal into the new world of Zoom casting. And as I said, Yana now is putting us on Buzzsprout, so not only will you see our video, you can hear our audio, and you'll get more information about that soon. Anyway, guys, see you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The objective of the organization We the World is to facilitate cooperation on a global scale amongst groups and individuals dedicated to implementing solutions to the many challenges we face on the planet at this time.